my friends. Good evening. How are you? Hey, John. Cliff. Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery, here from my home studio. Back with you this week. I was gone last week, I think for a pretty good reason. But I'm back tonight. I'm glad to have you along with us as we once again talk about outdoor-related activities in the great state of Michigan and beyond sometimes. Let's see who we've got on here tonight. We've got John. Hey, Craig, good talking to you this afternoon. Thanks for your understanding, buddy. I appreciate it. Dan, Devin, Scott, James, Adam, Charles, Corey, Captain Jim, Ed Bolanowski. I thought it went well, too, Ed. He's an easy guy to talk to. Oh, hello, Mark. How are you? John says, congrats on the wedding. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It was, Joe says the wedding looked amazing. It was. It was amazing. And it was wonderful. And it was emotional. And it was beautiful. And I just, one of the best experiences of my life. So let me just check my framing here on Facebook. It was a lot of fun. A lot of planning went into it. None of the planning was mine. Oh, yeah, that framing looks pretty good. Hey, Wayne, how are things in Las Vegas? I knew what you meant, Joe. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. Hey, Michelle, how are you? Jim, always a pleasure. Mike, Brian, Tracy. Yeah, Johnny texted me about 6 o'clock and said he was going out to get a beer and he hoped to have it in by the time the live show started tonight. Rob says, congrats on the wedding. A pretty proud moment. It was. Very proud. Very proud. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Hello, Brent. Yeah, I mean, come on, think about it. Dads, to walk your youngest daughter down the aisle is pretty emotional, pretty big deal. And then to get up there and then turn around and perform the ceremony that I wrote, pretty cool, pretty cool. Does the new son-in-law like to hunt and fish? He likes to fish. He's not into hunting yet, but he's open to it, so that's all I can ask. Well, Mark, here's the whole thing all I can ask. He loves my daughter, and he's going to take care of her. If I could find a guy who loved my daughter and will take care of her and did not hunt and fish, I'd be okay with that. But he does like to fish. Hey, Sean, how are you? Appreciate you joining us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Randy, I am Murray. Perching was great yesterday. Nothing but slabs. Wow. I've talked to others, Randy, who can't find any fish. Thank you. Joseph is very special. Hey, James, how are you? I can never find perch. Perch fishing to me is just about impossible because I can't find them. And then for some reason, when I find them, I have a hard time catching them. And now, what is easier to catch than a perch? Besides maybe a bluegill. So what is on the agenda for tonight? Well, we're well into September now. Labor Day weekend is behind us. The Big Woods and Water Outdoor Show, Outdoor Weekend in Imlay City is this weekend. Liberty/Youth Hunt this weekend. Bear seasons are open. Early goose, teal. Scott says you can find nets. I can find nets, and I can find walleye. Brad's been busy, or you're saying I would be busy. John said it would be nice if the DNR and others would post pictures from the elk from the check-ins. I agree. And actually, I am sitting on a couple of wonderful pictures of a Michigan bull elk that Vance Gowell sent me last week before I got tied up with the wedding, and then everything else went in the back seat, so I'm going to post those tomorrow. Some experts are saying the perch are collapsing in the bay due to the high schools of walleye. Even more than that, Jim, That is the reason that the DNR decreased the size limit from 15 inches down to 13 and increased the creel limit from 5 fish up to 8, was to knock down the walleye population in hopes of helping the perch population. Patrick says, congrats on the wedding. How did you keep it together? The wedding planners were very smart. I told Shelb that I did not want to see her in her dress until that day. In fact, it was just before the ceremony. So what they did was they put her off in a side room, and they walked me and my wife Denise in there. Denise had seen her already. I haven't. So they open the door. My eyes catch hers. She catches mine. I break down bawling like a baby. She started to bawl. Denise started to bawl. I would cry. So we walked over there and we held each other and we cried. And then I prayed over us. I prayed for a successful wedding, a ceremony, but moreover, a successful marriage. And that calmed us down. And so we got that, Shelby and I got that out of our system. So walking her down the aisle was emotional. There was one point in the ceremony when I looked at her and she looked at me and both of our lips were quivering. I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But it was wonderful. I'm telling you, it was wonderful. James says, scorching hot here in PA. Hey, John, how are you? Brad says, back to work after back surgery, still checking his deer cameras. I hope your surgery went well, Brad. Hey, good evening, Bruce. How are you? Appreciate you joining us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. But, you guys who have done this know this. It's very emotional to marry off your daughter, but to be able to do the ceremony, truly one of the most special things I have ever done in my life. And I've done some pretty darn cool things. Okay, let's talk about this youth hunt. Well, I'm glad you did, Jerry. I want to post as many pictures as I can of the youth hunt this season. So please email them to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I want to put the youth hunt in the positive light that it deserves. Some people don't like the youth hunt. I don't understand why, but some people don't. Ron says it's nice and cool up in Copper Harbor. John says this weekend he's heading south right when I have a respectable 10-point buck in the backyard and a 6x6 elk under the apple tree. How cool is that? When you take your pictures, and we've talked about this before, can you take an extra 10 seconds? If the animal's lying in a pool of blood, which means you made a great shot, so we're all very proud of this, right? But it's not the best image to portray anymore on social media. If the animal's laying in a pool of blood, why not take an extra 10 seconds, drag it 3 feet away from the blood, maybe take some ferns and wipe some of the blood off, and whatever you do, for God's sake, put the tongue back in the mouth. Put the animal's tongue back in the mouth. I can't tell you how many pictures, beautiful pictures of big game, I've had sent to me that have been ruined by the animal's tongue hanging out of his mouth. It looks like a cartoon when you do that. You know the cartoon with the dead animal with the tongue hanging out with the stars in its eyes? That's what it looks like. Put the animal's tongue in the mouth. Show it some respect. Show our way of life hunting respect. Show hunting respect. Corey says that if they don't like the Liberty Hunt or think we should just shoot does for it. I think the Liberty Hunt, the youth hunt, should be does only. Hello, Eric. How are you? It was nice to talk with you on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I will give the complete rundown of the show coming up. Jeff, hello. Hello, John. Mike says his wife will be out bear hunting this weekend. God evening, everyone. Well, God evening right back to you, Tim. Patrick saw a new business going to be opening at Holly. It's called Game Time Meats Processing and Taxidermy. Meat processing and taxidermy. I knew what you meant, Tim. Good evening, Randy. How are you? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. My name is Mike Avery. Wednesday Night Live is a very unimaginative term that I call this live stream every week at 7 o'clock. Obviously, it's patterned after Saturday Night Live. You might know Saturday Night Live. It used to be funny. In the mid-'70s when it came out, it was actually a funny show. Not so much anymore. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that very much. I'm so proud and blessed to be a part of that. And you know what my daughter Shelby got me for being in the wedding? I'll show you. Not for being in the wedding, for performing the ceremony. She got me this. We're going to the U of M Rutgers game on the 23rd. Oh, and they're good seats, too. That's a good daughter right there. Hey, Chris, how are things in Kansas? Nice to have you along with us. Appreciate you joining us. Did you hear that those of us here in Michigan have a new DNR director? He has been appointed by our illustrious governor. I have no respect for her. Jim says, Captain Jim says, a lot of hunters in the Gladwin area going to be scrambling because Lambert's had a fire. Joe says, like you always say, Mike, whether a kid takes to hunting or not after being exposed to the youth hunt, they have an experience they can remember and use that when they vote or when topics arise in the future. Absolutely. I know. I'm going to be there Friday, Ed. I'm going to be there on Friday. At Jay's Sporting Goods, that is. In fact, I'll tell you right now what's going on. Jay's Sporting Goods is having, I guess let me find it here. It's a text string between Bob Ransom, me, and Bill Hahn of Jay's. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a big tree stand sale. Primal Outdoors will be there. Bob Ransom will be there, and I will be there on Friday. Some pretty big sales, including this. You know, the Wraith 270 see-through ground blind that I love so much? The new version of the Wraith is called the Vision, and it's going to be on sale for $149 at Jay's this weekend. Plus, Primal is throwing in a pruning kit with a saw and pruning shear combo with the purchase of a blind or a ladder. The High Roller XL blind will be $180. The 22-foot Mac Daddy Deluxe ladder, $279. So I am going to be at Jay's Friday. The sale is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I haven't seen it yet, Brian. He says the scoreboard upgrade is amazing. I haven't seen it since they upgraded. Joel says he's got 2 youth hunters this weekend. I have one, my grandson Carter, and it's his last year that he can participate in the youth hunt. Let's go back to Whitmer. I mean, whatever her name is. Hopefully, she's going to be moving on. I think she does us more harm here in Michigan than she will in Washington because she'll end up in Washington. I don't know if I worded that correctly. I think she'll do less harm in Washington than she does here in Michigan. Ron says he picked up a pocket knife at Rapid River. Its showroom is awesome. That one's mine. I need to sharpen it. Hey, Steve. I saw you commented on Shelby's wedding. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. So let me get back to what improvements did they make on the Wraith? Ask me that again in here in just a minute, Jay. Jay's in, I don't know if both stores are having it. That's a great question, Patrick. I'm going to be at the Claire store. Corey will be at Jay's on Friday, too. Brian did some work at the Big House 2 weeks ago. Let's go back to the person that our illustrious leader. Just remember what she did to us during COVID, right? And we reelected her. So whose fault is that? And look around. They're getting us ready for another round 3 of COVID or whatever round it would be. They're getting us ready. They're trying to prep us right now. I will get another booster. I will not wear a mask again. Nope. And I will refuse to participate in any shutdowns. That ain't going to happen again. Scott says, looking tired tonight. I am. When your daughter marries an Indian boy, the Indian people know how to party. We had 5 days of events. And then there were 2 weeks of running back and forth to Detroit before then. I am tired. In fact, Scott, I think being an old guy, there's no volume. Mike says there's hardly any volume. Anybody else having problems with the volume? Hardly any volume. Anybody else? Anybody else having problem with the volume? Nope. Chris is. Well, let me see what I can do with the audio here. It's on automatically adjust. I can talk louder, which is what I normally do. I normally talk at this level. But I'm just so tired that I don't want to talk much louder. I'm pretty tired tonight. I got to be honest with you. Now, a lot of people say the audio is good. I'll just talk a little louder. There you go. You know, there is a volume control on your end you can turn up. All right. Thanks, everybody. Well, this morning and the reason for that might be, Mike, that this morning I was actually running my audio through a professional radio studio, and right now I'm running it through my home studio. So that could be the difference. Let me go back to our new Michigan DNR director. His name is Scott Bowen, and he was appointed by our illustrious leader, our governor, our governorette, our governoress. I don't know anything about Scott Bowen, except that he's the former lottery commissioner here in Michigan. He's a former lobbyist. He's an attorney. And he's from the west side of the state. People that I know who know him say he's not a hunter or an angler. So I guess my question is, does our DNR director have to be an avid hunter and angler, or is it more important than that our DNR director is a good manager, a good people person, able to get things done within the system, and somebody who will listen to the wildlife biologists below him and take their input? What does that mean? Which is better? I do find it interesting that in the news release that they sent out announcing this, the governoress, the lady in charge in Lansing, who hopefully in 3 years she'll be gone, of course. How we ever reelected her, I do not know. Shame on us. The news release said that the new DNR director, Scott Bowen, will be involved in historic renovations and upgrades at our state parks. Now, our state parks need renovations and upgrades. There's no doubt about that. With everything going on in the state from a conservation and hunting and fishing perspective, I think this statement says a lot. Number one, if you look at it in a positive light, which is the way I'm going to look at this, because since I don't know the guy, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's going to do a great job. When they make a statement like focusing on state parks, it tells me that he's probably not going to come out and tackle any big issues and cause problems. That's what I'm hoping for. It's also interesting that they're bringing up state park renovation when this is something that former DNR director Dan Eichinger said at a Michigan Bear Hunters conference in Traverse City probably 5 years ago. I was there. I heard him say it, maybe more than 5 years ago. One of his goals was going to be to upgrade and renovate our state park system. He wasn't able to get it done, I think, because CWD raised its ugly head and, oh man, I almost made a terrible mistake, misspoke, sucked all the funding out of state government. Dan Eichinger, who was DNR director, moved over to Eagle. He has since resigned from Eagle, and he's now at Ferris. Go Dogs. John says, you have no constitutional right to hunt or fish in Michigan, so a socialist being the director of DNR is fitting. Is he a socialist, John? I don't know that. True. Scott said, did I verify the issue this morning about needing the recreational passport sticker on your truck to park on state land while hunting? I did not, but Justin Tomei, who is with MUCC and should know such things, did say that's the case, which just blew me away. That sounds very authoritarian to me. You have to have our sticker to use any state land. Now, I get it if it's an ORV or an ATV trail or something that needs to be maintained and groomed, but just to be on state land? Well, Brian, that's not the way it was described this morning, Brian, because that's what I thought too. I thought if it's a state park or if it's a state boat launch. Justin Tomei, who is with MUCC, said this morning that is not the truth. And Tim says it is true, according to the state's webpage, that if you are on state-owned land, you need to have the recreational passport sticker on your license plate. If you're hunting, if you're walking, hiking, berry picking, bird watching, they say you have to have it. Joe says, is this new? I don't know, Joe. It's the first I've heard about it. It blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. And I still have a hard time believing it. So no, Scott, to answer your question, I have not verified it yet. I have not had time. Oh, hey, I don't know if you picked out your broadheads for the upcoming season. I don't know, Tony. I don't know. If it has a motor, it has to be registered. A 5-horsepower, 12-foot rowboat does have to be registered, Marilyn. If it has a motor, it has to be registered. If you are looking for a deal on broadheads for the upcoming season, check out Rec Broadheads, R-E-K, recbroadheads.com. If you like them and decide you want some and you can't find them, I'll come back to that one, and you can't find them at a local retailer, go to the website, recbroadheads.com, recbroadheads.com. Use the promo code Avery15, Avery15, and you can save 15% on your Rec Broadheads. Charles says, never heard of this time to have a Ask the CO thing on show. I had one this week, Charles, and here's the problem with the Ask the CO thing. If you ask 6 different COs, and it's not their fault, if you ask 6 different COs the answer to a question, you might get 2 different answers. Just because a lot of them are confusing. So if you want to get the ultimate answer, you have to go to Lansing. I had a conservation officer today on the show for this weekend, and the question I wanted to ask him was, getting ready for, bear season, youth season, yada, yada, and he wanted to come on and talk about the rifle season. Well, hell, the rifle season's 2 months away. Deborah says, the recreational passport is required for motorized vehicle access to state parks and recreation areas and state-managed boating access sites, state forest campgrounds, thousands of miles of trails and outdoor spaces all year long. I'm still confused. Brian says, see, there's all confusion here, right? I have to follow up on this next week. The recreational passport is only required on DNR parks and recreational division lands. I need to follow up on this next week. Let me make myself a note. This is going to be next week's Ask Avery segment. I have a file that I keep that calls next week's radio show. Okay. It's in there, recreational passport. We need to follow up on this. Yes, if you get opted in, have the P on your tab, but that doesn't answer anything. I thought so too, Joe. Deb said that straight from the website. Tony said, I thought you had to get... I know it. Yeah, if you're wrong, you should be fired. It is not required on a standard state land two-track trail that is not a designated trail. We got to get this answered. It's confusing as can be. Good evening, Billy. Let's talk about who is on the Outdoor Magazine radio show this week. I started out talking with Captain Jeff Godey of the Michigan Experience. MichiganExperience.com. We talk about late season fishing for salmon, trout, and walleye on northern Lake Huron. Jeff spends all summer on inner Saginaw Bay chasing walleye. So we talk about fishing for silverfish for the most part, although salmon's the only silverfish in there. And then also the early season waterfowl hunting. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News talks about their big outdoor weekend going on this weekend in Imlay City. In hour number 2, Eric Carlson, who is on here with us right now, or at least he was a minute ago, talks about using LiveScope technology, which is the Garmin brand name. Humminbird and Lowrance have different names for it, but it's the forward-facing real-time sonar. Some tips on how to use that. I am fascinated by this technology. It is so effective that bass tournaments are banning it. And I suspect you'll find some states that might take a look at doing that too. Then the conservation officer I was telling you about, Doug Hermanson, he wanted to talk about gun season. And then Dustin Eisenhoff of the DNR, following up on this question. Now, this is this week's Ask Avery question. Bob Lynch sent me this question. He sent me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. This is a great question. He says, Mike, can you find out why there are no hunter's guides available? It's September and they're not even available online. How do you find out about regulation changes? I don't want to make any mistakes. It used to be that the licensed dealers were required, technically, when you bought a license, they were required to hand you the appropriate hunting guide, whether it was bear or waterfowl or deer or whatever. Kind of getting away from that these days. So Dustin Eisenhoff comes on the show and he said, look, we are making some changes. He said, first of all, the guide is available online and it's available on the app. But he did admit, John saw it online today, that they are cutting back on the number of guides that they print because fewer and fewer people are relying on those printed guides. And they were spending a lot of money printing guides that were ended up getting thrown away at the end of the year. And I actually like that. I mean, I want the DNR to save money and not throw money away. So if you download the Huntfish app, the Michigan Huntfish app on your phone, all of the information is there. And the glory of that is, the joy of that is, if there's a change, it is updated almost immediately. Where a printed hunting guide, you're going to have a problem. It's also available on the DNR website. So I would say if you want to know the regulations, go to the app, the Huntfish app. It is a free app. Okay, and then also in our third hour, Tom Lounsbury talks about getting ready for the fall hunting season. He has a bear tag. He's going to go hunt with Gary Morgan. And then Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner wraps it all up. John says, and I don't know how he can afford this as a newly graduated kid just from college. He has Hummingbird's version, and he haven't found it more successful yet. Still have lots of learning to do. Not an automatic fish catching machine. That's the same thing Eric was saying, is it takes some time to figure it out. What about small gamers next weekend? Mike, I'll be out. Yeah, where are all the guides for this? Go to the Huntfish app. Art, I as well am hoping the price of LiveScope comes down, and it will. Because as with all technology, as it evolves, the price comes down. I get it. Deborah says, totally miss having a copy of the hunting guide in your hand. I get it. All right, Chris, get back to work, buddy. Thanks for joining us out there in Kansas. Jeff says the first paper copy of the season years ago always went up north and was on the kitchen table at the cabin. Everybody looked forward to it. Yep. Tim says, I love the app for the screwed up trout regs unless I'm somewhere without reception. I think you can probably download that. Roy says he's fished with Eric. He's a fishing machine. I found out about Eric from Ed Bolanowski. A friend of mine who, in fact, is going to be hunting in Ohio with us. He said he fished with Eric and said the same thing. Dennis, good evening. How are you? App Store on your phone. Charles, do you have an Android or an iPhone? Android or iPhone? If you have an iPhone, you go to the App Store. If you have an Android phone, you go to the Google Play Store and you download the Michigan Huntfish app. It's free. Oh, no kidding. Folks get a double dose of Eric. He'll be on Michigan Outdoors Thursday and your show this weekend. Well, had I known that, I wouldn't have had him on this week. Too bad they couldn't automatically email it once you purchase a license. That's not a bad idea either, Joe. That's not a bad idea. Brian says, looks like a good weekend to hit the water to pull in some eyes. Here's my weekend. Friday, I will be at Jay's. I'll tell you more details on that in a minute. Saturday morning, I'm hunting at my buddy Scott's place with my grandson Carter. He has Scott's permission to shoot a big doe. No bucks. No small bucks, no big bucks, no nothing. It has to be a doe, which I respect. Saturday afternoon, I'm watching the Michigan football game. Sunday morning, I'm going to be in church. Sunday afternoon, I don't know yet. Tim says, did you get excited if September 15th was a school day and you had to wait till after school to go hunt? I remember being so excited, and I must have been very young because I wasn't even playing football yet. Coming home from school, grabbing a .22 or a shotgun, and going back to the woods behind the farm and squirrel hunting on those beautiful late September days. I remember those. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. Scott Ham, my buddy Scott, who has Scott has taken out youth hunters this weekend, was able to start shooting my bow again for my elk hunt in Montana starting the 15th. Breathing thin air will definitely be a problem. You're tough, Scott. I mean, you're tough. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. We will be making a lot of venison. That's a venison burger for sure. Somebody said something here I wanted to come back to. Deborah again, if you download the Michigan DNR app, at least you can help. You can also purchase licenses, check drawing results, report harvest, and see the current weather. It's a very good app. I'm very impressed with that app. They did a wonderful job with it. It's real easy, pretty easy to use. It's not clunky. It's not funky. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty solid. I think they did a real good job. Oh, you know who's on the outdoor? What improvements? Thank you, Jim. Thank you. The improvements to the new Wraith. The main improvement is there are now brush loops on it. There were not brush loops on the Wraith before. The Wraith has been improved. It has a new camo pattern, which to me is neither here nor there. But with the new camo pattern, they've added brush loops. They've now renamed it the Vision 270, and I think the Wraith 270 is being phased out. Having said that, if you go to Jay's Sporting Goods here in Michigan, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, listen to this. You can buy one of those Vision 270 see-through ground blinds for $149. That is a great price. $150. Also sales on ladder stands, like they're running their 22-foot Mac Daddy. $279. That's $50 off. I've hunted out of that stand. It's a nice stand. The sale goes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Let me see if I can text Bill right now to see. I should get an answer from Bill here real quick. I will be there Friday afternoon along with Bob Ransom, the man behind Primal Outdoors. Also, Bob Ransom, the guy who started Ameristep, will be there. Will it be a little more bear resistant? Gene says, "Congrats on your daughter." Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. It was a wonder. Honestly, I can't stop thinking about it and can't talk enough about it. But I will. I'll stop because it'll bore you. But it was a beautiful, emotional, blessed event. Will it be a little more bear resistant? Probably not. John says, back in the day, church is important. On another issue, small game is upcoming. We had 11 rabbits I was hoping to harvest. Now we have 2 and 3 feral cats. When is Michigan going to address the issue of feral and free-roaming cats? Bill says the sale is going on at both stores. Both stores, Claire and Gaylord. Feral cats. Feral cats are an interesting problem, aren't they? Because they're probably one of the most efficient predators on small game and upland birds out there. Here's what I don't know. Somebody help me out. Is it legal to shoot a feral cat? I mean, I'm not going to tell you I haven't done it. It's not legal to shoot a feral cat. Well, this happened several years ago. It was more than 7 years, so the statute of limitations is over. But if I see a cat wandering back in the woods, not close to a farm, and obviously hunting, it's a felony. Well, maybe I won't finish my statement then. A felony. Just keep it to yourself. I had no idea it was a felony. Why would it be a felony? Jim says it is on his property. Disregard what I said. I'm not saying I've ever done it. Yes, Johnny, did you get your bear? Johnny Bowler texted me about 6 o'clock and said he had a bear down already. I think it's the first day of the season. Johnny, did you get your bear? Brian says it's not a felony. I can't imagine shooting a cat would be a felony. Yes, Johnny. Did you get your bear, Johnny? Did you get your bear for your hunter? Johnny's got... Will the new blinds allow the whisperer to whisper? Backstroke. No, I've shot cats in the woods before. Brian says he went to the cops and reported his cat getting shot. They said anybody can shoot him. I don't think that's the case. Will the new blind allow the bear whisperer to whisper? I just want Johnny to get to the point where he can judge distances. Last time I bear hunted with him, he said the bait is 70 yards away. I get up there and put a rangefinder on, it's 30 yards. Jeff says people used to drop them off in Crawford County. DNR said shelters are full. You know how to take care of them. I think that's what it is. It's like, okay, there's an, all right, listen, don't brag about it. Don't go on a live stream and say you did it, Avery. Genesee Township Police said they do a lot of damage. They do. Already September. Isn't that crazy, Eric? Let me text Johnny. Oh, here we go. He got him. Johnny got his bear already. Well, his hunter's bear. It looks like, it's not a big bear, but it's in broad daylight, so good job. Good job. So Johnny's on the board with his bear hunters. No problem, Jason. Glad to have you along with it. John says, you might want to research that. It's under animal abuse under federal law. Johnny, I'm still live. Although he's out in the middle of nowhere, he can't get it. Deborah says it's a felony if you kill a companion animal. I'm not sure if a feral cat would be considered a companion. John says, I'm going by what the police told me when I reported it as my neighbor shooting my cat. I got you, John, or Brian. So we have two issues now tonight. Well, that's another one. All right, let me add this to my list. These are excellent questions for the Ask Avery segment. So next week, recreational passport and cat shooting. Great questions. Have I been out on my angler quest lately? Absolutely not. I have not been out there for weeks and weeks now. John says, I thought we talked about the feral cat stuff not too long ago, and you said if there's no collar and you're hunting, it's considered feral and you can take it. I mean, you can shoot coyotes year-round. I know a mountain lion is prison time because it's endangered, but feral cat depends on wild or house cat. I don't know. What about dogs? You can't shoot a dog. I know that. You can't shoot a dog. And I may have done that too. But it's been a long time. Like when I was a kid and the dogs were running a deer and they were tearing it apart. Ken says heavy rains moving through northwest side of Lansing right now. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow. I mean, you got to imagine with this big change in temperature that we're going to get some weather. Here, Johnny. Johnny says, I'm here on a happy bear harvest afterwards. Congrats, buddy. The Bear Whisperer strikes. He's on the board with the first bear of the season. Nice job, Johnny. Nice job, Johnny. How did it get to be 7:43 already? Nice. Okay, some things to remember. I didn't tell you who's on the Offshore Tackle podcast this month. Lance Valentine, Sir Lancelot, on the Offshore podcast. I will have that uploaded tomorrow. Oh, here we go. I bet this is Deborah. It is. Now, I don't know Deborah, but I have a feeling that she's in the court system or in the law enforcement area. Animal and companion animal defined. Prohibited acts. Violation. Penalty. Animal means a vertebrate other than a human being. Companion animal means an animal that is commonly considered to be or considered by its owner to be a pet, or that is a service animal. A cat or a dog would be a pet, would be a companion animal. I know it gets dark at like 8 o'clock now that summer's over. It's not technically over, right? And it's getting dark earlier, yes. Tommy says, congrats, Johnny. Absolutely, Cliff. Jerry checking in from the Adirondacks. Mike says, have a greeting and congrats again on your daughter's wedding. Thank you. I'm a very blessed man. I've been walking on clouds here for the last several days. Have I thought about doing the Wednesday after live? Yeah, I've thought about it, but I haven't done it. Deborah now says a feral cat is not a companion. Deborah, why don't you shoot me and a private message or an email. Send me an email if you would. You get a chance, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And just let me know about your background because I feel like you're well qualified to discuss this. Johnny says, and yes, I'm drinking an ice cold beer and it's 73 degrees. You deserve it, Johnny. Thank you, John. Okay, so the Ask Avery segment has been answered. I told you who's on the radio show this week. One more time, let me tell you about this big event at Jay's Sporting Goods, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's their tree stand sale and ground blind sale. Bob Ransom of Primal will be there. Their 22-foot Mac Daddy is at $280. That's $50 off. Their Vision 270 see-through ground blind, that's the updated version of the Wraith 270, is $149. That's crazy. Bob's also throwing in a pruning kit, which includes a saw and pruning shear combo if you buy a stand or a ladder stand. Craig, I'm going to be up there at Jay's Friday afternoon. I don't know exactly what time yet. One-ish maybe? One-ish roughly? Thank you, Cap. I appreciate that. And one more time, if you want to save 15% on Rec Broadheads, go to the website recbroadheads.com. That's recbroadheads.com. Use the promo code Avery15. That's Avery15 at checkout, and you can save that 15%. Oh, did I not hit the right button? I did. All right, my friends, thanks for joining me. My name is Mike Avery. This is Wednesday Night Live. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great weekend. Weather's going to be nice. Have fun on your hunting and fishing adventures. Send me your pictures, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Put the tongue back in, please. And we'll talk to you next time right here